In today's conversation, we're going to talk about leadership in the time of continuous change. So we're going to talk about how leadership is different in an agile world and what changed for leaders and how should we develop those capabilities in order to thrive in such an environment. So maybe before we jump into the topic, a bit about myself, who I am. So my name is Bar Schwartz, originally from Israel, living in Berlin now for the last decade. I bring more than 12 years of experience from the software industry, started as a software engineer. I've been working also in different roles in software engineering, including quality assurance, product ownership, product management. And in the last 6 years, I've been focusing mostly on leading change in organizations, supporting leaders, supporting different type of environments from small startups to large corporates in their transition towards agile ways of working, including implementing different frameworks in the scaled agile approach or any type of organizational transition and upskilling for leadership in order to enable them to become more effective and realize the organization model that they would like to create and also the value out of that. So that kind of brings us to today's conversation. And the first thing that we have to remember before we start is that leadership plays a very crucial role in establishing the foundation for agility. Leaders across all layers of the organization, regardless if you are a team lead or you are the executive, whether you're working in a small company or a large corporate, you all have, and we all have, because I'm also considered a leader within my organization and the type of roles that I play in organizations, we all have three main core responsibilities that we need to acknowledge that we have. So the first one is we set the vision and direction. And it's true that in different levels of the organization, the magnitude and the impact of that is different, but we do set the vision and direction for the organization. The second is we prioritize and focus work. People do look up to us and try to understand what is the direction, what is the expectations from them, what is important, what is not important, and what should they work on. And the third is we set the tone for the culture and expected behaviors. And that means that what we do is leading by example. What we do is expected to be the norm and the way we would like organizations to be. So if I am, as a team lead, behaving in a certain way, my team will think that that's the way it's expected to behave in that specific team or in that specific organization. And yes, we should all care about that. This is quite of an important topic. Usually, leadership is considered the fluffy topic of agile change. However, there are clear reasons why we should all care about it. And one of them is that many organizations nowadays are not gonna avoid having an agile transformation or an agile transition of some sort. Organizations nowadays are facing very important market changes that if 10 years ago or 20 years ago, we could kind of say, we'll live in a vacuum, it doesn't affect me, it's not going to be my problem, maybe it happens to someone else, it's only in software, it's only in that specific type of an organization. Organizations today see that it touches every possible organization, every possible industry. The market is changing. So we have technology and digital changes that results in a new type of product and new type of development, traditional industries being disrupted and having to pivot towards different ways of working, different product value proposition, and different development approach to their product. We have new market expectations and needs, which means that our customers are changing. And that means that what the customers used to expect from us is different. They become more impatient. They want things to happen faster. They have better expectations for quality. And we need to understand that in order to thrive in today's market, we need to be competitive across those. Also, we have operational uncertainty. Operational uncertainty, for example, we had COVID, and we also have a war in certain countries, and we have now the inflation happening, and that also leads to a lot of changes in the market, and that create operational uncertainty because we don't necessarily know what will be the cost and what will be the situation that we need to operate under. And the last but not least, and one of the most important, is that we do have an employee shortage. Even though we see that there is layoff in certain countries and in certain companies, finding the right people to realize the type of an organization that you want to have, and also what a company can afford to employ in today's market, is very different than how it used to be. So as an organization, many organizations see that agile transformation as a cure to those common challenges, because as an organization, we have certain needs that needs to be addressed. We want to accelerate the delivery in order to meet the demand, in order to be able to compete in that new reality. We need to be able to manage change, because we have change from the operational uncertainty, we have change from the market, we have change from our product strategy. We need to be more flexible. And then we need to increase productivity, because if we have less people, we need to be able to get more with the less that we have. And we need to align strategy and implementation, because we can no longer afford people working on the wrong things and having a lot of work repetition because of lack of communication, or because of not being able to prioritize certain things or working on the wrong things. So then, when we're looking at all of that together, organizations nowadays need the ability. They don't need agile framework per se, but they need the ability to be able to detect and respond to change by integrating feedback into their ways of working. So they need what's called business agility. And many organizations, they go on those agile transformations looking for that cure, hoping that we implement SAFe, we implement Kanban, we implement Scrum, we implement certain framework. And because of those frameworks, we now have the cure. We now have everyone working in that new ways of working. And as leaders, we believe that it's enough that we are going to provide people with all of those tools and techniques and practices and enable them to work this way. The sad reality is that many organizations don't perceive their agile transformations as successful. It's more being perceived as some sort of a placebo. Many people give the feedback that, oh, I think that people actually implemented Agile here because it was trendy of some sort. We hear from different reports like Digital AI, State of Agile report, and that continues over the years. You can see the feedback from more than 5-6 years ago. In the last feedback that the last report that they had, they mentioned that 40% of organizations are dissatisfied with Agile transformation initiatives. And the common challenges, the common reasons that people are dissatisfied or perceive their transformation to be a failure is that management does not support us enough. Our processes across the organizations make no sense, or they're inconsistent. Our organization clearly does not align with the Agile values, or it just doesn't work. People resist it. We are unable to prioritize work. We still have too many things that we need to do, and we're not prioritizing what's important. And also, our management is not yet collaborative enough. And we can see that quite many of those reasons are about people and system. So it is about how is it that we as leaders are supporting the organizations, that we, when we take managerial roles, able to collaborate better, support those initiatives, help prioritizing work, and a lot around the culture and the way that we're thinking and the mindset and how it all fits together. And the good news is that a lot of those different type of challenges that the organizations are facing that making the agile transformation difficult are within our control as leaders. And typically that brings the questions of, So wait, how should leadership evolve then to build that better type of foundation for agility? Because there are so many different things that we can do, and we are doing so many things already. So what are the core things that really make a difference when I am a leader and I want to do something different for my organization? Again, regardless of the level that you are in the organization, we can be leaders for many different parts of the organizations. And typically, I would focus on 6 main areas. And that's one, defining a target image that you can stick to. Two, clarify expectations and follow them yourself. Three, clarify decision makings and principles. Four, radiate information continuously and use it to bring people together. Five, collect the right data and utilize it to avoid biases. And six, focus on empowering and enabling others. And we will be diving just a bit deep into each one of those to get a better understanding of what does it mean. So the first thing that we have to remember is when we're shifting into an agile organization, the biggest thing that changes is who is doing the work and is making the decisions about the work that they are doing. So in traditional organizational setup, we used to have a very hierarchical decision-making process, which means that there was a certain strategy in the top and information was owned by the management, and that was cascading then into the people doing the work through providing decision-making power and rules until it arrives to a specific silo of certain people in certain expertise making decisions, and they would be reporting back to their manager that reports back to their manager. So for one individual from one team to work with another individual in another team, there will be a very long communication line, and information will just not flow. In an agile organization, what we are changing ultimately is the communication and decision-making power. So the people that are part of a team, this is an end-to-end value delivery team. All the people needed to deliver one specific value proposition. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a software product. It can be any type of solution, service, project. At the end of the day, it is about who are the people that can work together to complete a certain deliverable. And those people, they own the work that they're doing. So they need to be able to scope the work that they're having, plan it, implement it, test it with their customers, and get feedback from their organization on that and manage all of that on their own. So that means that as leaders, we become a key individual for information sharing. And that means that if people in the teams don't understand the larger organizational vision, they don't understand the larger target image of where we want to go as an organization, each of those siloed, I mean, they're still siloed because they're end-to-end value delivery teams. They focus on their own value, right? Sorry. So they focus on their own value. So each one of them will, if they don't have an understanding of how their specific work is contributing to the overall organizational outcome, they don't necessarily know how to make the best decisions about their own product. And as leaders, for example, we can utilize different tools like objectives and key results, and also really just defining a certain target image. If I close my eyes and I imagine my organizations a year from now, what would that look like? And how would I know that I reached it? And giving people that image. So when they are in the team, they don't need to wait for that information cascading to them. They have that information and they can make the decisions within the team on how to do that. And the second part of it is to stick to it. Because many times we are defining certain objectives, we are defining certain KPIs, we are defining certain metrics, and we say, this is where we want to go. And then either we change it every quarter, or we completely ignore it because we follow different type of priorities. And this is where it's important. If you want to do some, we have to treat our strategy as some sort of an experiment. We set up a strategy for the next 3 years, okay? Then we say, what are we going to focus on? What is the most important for us for the next year? And we're setting up objectives, let's say for a quarter or 2 weeks, or as often as your organization changes. The organizations are different, needs are different, and then we follow that through. And if we need to pivot, there needs to be clear cases for pivot, but not just pivot for the sake of pivot. And because by setting up some sort of a direction, we can make sure that people are working towards something that can be realized. If we keep changing the target image, they will never arrive any type of a target image. The second one is clarifying expectations and follow them yourselves. So many times we're asking ourselves, what is important for us as an organization and how do we want to work together to achieve it? There are many different types of cultures that we can create in an organization. Some of those cultures are gonna move us forward and towards our goals, and some of those cultures will move us away from our goals. For example, if I want to have an agile organization, but I'm building a culture that is fostering authority, that does not allow people to make decisions, that make it unsafe for people to make certain decisions. Or, for example, we are over prioritizing safety and order. We want everything to be organized. We want everything to be the way that we expect it to be. Then we are creating a situation that people cannot be agile in those type of environments, because they cannot experiment, they cannot try things out. So we have to ask ourselves, if we want agility, what that looks like to us as leaders, and then define the type of culture and behaviors in the organizations that will support people towards that goal, not against it. And really ask ourselves, behavior by behavior, is that a behavior that is supporting or not supporting? And once you clarify those expectations, you have to follow it yourself, because if you are not doing it, no one else would. Now, moving forward, it's also about decision making. So we clarified that the information is changing, the way that information flow is changing. And it's true that we have a target image, so everyone now is aligned towards the way that they would like to be working. And also we have a certain culture, the way that we would like to collaborate, the way that we would like to behave. And now we also need to define for our people, what are the decision-making principles? How are you going to make decisions here? And what is it that you can make decisions on? And you can see that I'm using here different pictures. So for example, delegation poker is a management 3.0 practice. And there are different techniques from the Agile ways of working that we are also teaching in our AgileLAB trainings, on how to support building that type of an alignment of how is it we want to work together, how is it we want to make decisions, what are we supposed to base our decisions on. And here we just say, clarify those principles. Do you want managers to partner up with people and still make the final decision? Or do you want teams to be completely independent and run around and make their own decisions? Like, every organization needs to ask those questions for themselves, and they need to make it clear for the people that are doing the work. And that brings to the next one, which is radiating information continuously and using it to bring people together. What do we see here in common? That it doesn't matter what type of a framework you're using to become agile. At the end of the day, we have to remember it's not about the framework itself. It is about the way information flows through the organization and decisions are made through the organization. Whether I choose to use just one Kanban board to create transparency because that's sufficient for me, or I'm using a value stream because it brings multiple people across multiple steps together in a specific workflow, or I'm using SAFe because I have a very corporate, large environment with many teams that have to come together and collaborate, or I'm using Kanban, or I'm using Scrum at Scale or less. It doesn't matter what you're using, but we do need to remember that it's a lot around the communication and utilize that system to flow the communication, to make sure that we as leaders making sure that other people communicate with each other and that they make sure that information passed through and that that information is being utilized to bring people together, to have different opportunities to inspect information, adapt information, inspect information, and adapt information. Because at the end of the day, agility is in the basics. It's not about what framework you choose. The framework is there to support you to implement that. However, it is about the way people communicate and come together to talk about things. And that also brings us to the next one, which is collecting the data and utilizing it to avoid our biases. And we usually, in our trainings at AgileLAB, we teach the art of Agile and the more experimentation approach, the data, insight, believe, bet. So what does it mean? That as an organization, we want to collect certain data that is going to support us in identifying whether we are working on the right things. So we said we had a target image, and that target image is setting up certain objective for us of what is important for us and what is it that we would like to achieve in the next quarter. And within that quarter, we have a certain belief about where we want to go. But this is an hypothesis. So what we want to do is, like the heart of Agile also suggests, we want to collaborate on defining what is the problem and hypothesis that we're trying to solve. We want to build something small that we can deliver and we can collect data on how is it that we are doing. Then we take that data to reflect and we improve based on the data. And we want to do those type of decisions across everything in the organization, including making decisions about what type of culture we want or what type of people we want to hire. And the moment that we are leading by example, we are operating in the same way that we would like the organization to operate, we will start seeing that even it starts in the small things, but we start bringing more and more agility to the organization. And that bringing us to the last point. And the last point is that at the end of the day, it's not about you, right? As a leader, it's about us. It's about enabling and empowering others. And I understand that in the past, leadership was a title of success. I am the expert. Now follow what I do. Many of us, including myself, like to be in charge of things. And I like to be the expert. I like having the answers. However, in today's reality, where so many things are moving parts and changing, we cannot be the experts in everything. We can be the expert in certain things, but we cannot be the experts in everything. And that means that we cannot always tell people what to do, and we most of the time shouldn't. So as a leader, we need to have also our own evolvement journey from being that expert that is becoming the team lead of other experts. And then I can finally set the tone of how certain things are going to be in the organization. It's not about that. It is about making sure that we are setting up a certain context, a certain environment for people to operate where they have enough information, enough communication, and the ability to shift towards. So we will not just jump from being the expert to being a coach or a catalyst, how it's called in the agile ways of working. We are first the expert, so we set up the quality, the standard, making sure that people are able to do the work that they're doing. Then we are shifting to build their capability around making decisions. So this is what leadership is really about, bringing people together to reach a certain goal. And then once we see that our teams are capable, empowered, and able to make the decisions and do the work, we just need to let them go and then focus more on coaching and building their capabilities moving forward, focus on that continuous improvement, that handshake, right? And let them fly. And believe me, whenever you're finishing with one problem, there will always be another problem. So once you reach that state that your team is capable to deliver, you will always have new challenges to be responsible for. So shine through others. And this is where, if you focus on those main 6 things, which we train in our Agile Lab trainings, we have different trainings focusing on that, such as leading with agility, coaching agile transitions, and delivery at scale, agile project management. We are covering a lot of those different techniques that I was talking about. So once you focus on that, where do you start, right? Like you kind of identify which of those is the most problematic for you. And then you choose this one thing that you want to focus on, and you start building your improvement in that specific area. And maybe you start by educating yourself on what good looks like, and you set up one specific objective for yourself, one specific activity, and you coach yourself through it. And also you build your own accountability framework that enables you to start developing new habits in the same way that you're doing with your teams. And if you want to know more about that, we do have the Leading with Agility training, where we actually talk about self-coaching and how to develop those type of competencies, and also how to develop other competencies through that self-coaching approach. Yeah, so what's your questions? I would say I will open it now for questions.